Hey everyone, happy happy St. Patty's Day. It is the 17th of March 2018. Hard to believe that it is. I'm trying to get in a position there. It is the 17th already. But in a week's time, though, season 8 of MLP, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, is going to premiere. Now, we already pretty much know that Season 8 has already gotten off to a controversial, if not ruckus, start. And what I'm talking about is the fact that we pretty much have had 6 or 7 episodes already leaked online. Now, these episodes are not fully complete. They are fully animated and full length for an episode, basically 22 to 25 minutes. But they are not fully animate. But they are not fully complete. You know, some don't have the sound effects or the background music, and I think even one is just the audio only. Now, one thing I'm sure a lot of people are concerned about, and I talked about this one time, I even mentioned it in some of the forums, is the fact that this is going to be a season based on the School of Friendship, basically centered around the Friendship School that is being opened by Twilight and her friends. Each are going to be teachers of a class representing their element. Rarity is going to teach about generosity, Applejack about honesty, Rainbow Dash about loyalty, Fluttershy about kindness, Pinkie Pie about laughter, and Twilight, of course, is going to probably teach about magic, but I think that's going to Celestia, according to some of these shorts that we're getting on YouTube. And Starlight, as much as some people find this kind of awkward, is going to be the Counselor of Friendship. Yeah, Starlight Glimmer is going to be the Counselor of Friendship. So it's kind of, I know some people kind of feel that's kind of weird, and I think Spike's going to be like a vice principal, an assistant principal or something. He's going to be something with for Twilight. He's going to be an assistant. I know that. But one thing I sense at times when people are talking about this is, even though they are hyped at the fact that Season 8 is just a week away, what they're worried about is the fact that the season is going to be more school-centered than what brought it to the dance originally. That some are worried that it's going to focus more on these newer characters than on the main 6 or 7, as well as Spike and a few of their friends. I'm here to let you know, and I mentioned this before, that that's not the case. Because from what I understand by looking at the episode list, there are 10 to 11 school-centered episodes there. There's 10 to 11 school-centered episodes in the season. And from what I could tell, there are 15 to 16 non-school-centered episodes. Now, what that means is, even though the School of Friendship is a priority for this season and is one of the main selling points when it comes to the toys and play sets to be released, it is not going to be the entire season. 10 of them are basically going to be, like I say, 10 to 11 of them are going to be school related, and 15 to 16 of them are not going to be school related. 15 to 16 of them are going to feel like before. And you're going to feel that effect within like the 3rd episode or something like that. So basically around March 31st is when you're going to start feeling the effects of, oh, this is not exactly what we thought it would be off the bat. I mean, even though the idea to integrate and introduce all these different races and species of characters to help teach friendship to, and help teach friendship and exemplify friendship to, so that they can carry it off back to where they live, or back to their fellow species and creatures. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I like the concept that you sort of have like a junior a junior like version of the main six, but basically it's different creatures. I mean, you got a pony, you got a sea pony hippogriff, you got a changeling, you got a dragon, you got a yak, and you got a griffin, which I think is pretty cool to see that diversity in a new main six group. And again, I can understand people a little concerned about that, especially, I'm not going to get too much into it because I don't want this video to be taken down, especially when you read up about potentially season 8's finale is going to be like and how that's going to turn out. I can understand some people worried that what happens in season 8's finale is going to translate over to season 9. In season 9, it will basically be where we kind of focus more on these other characters and we don't see like the main 6 or main 7 anymore. That is not the case, because like I said here, the main priority about this season to connect with the movie is the School of Friendship. But like I said, the School of Friendship is a non-factor for a majority of the series, of the season. And what I mean by being a non-factor is for about 15 to 16 episodes, it's not the focal point. It might be touched upon and talked about and referenced, but it's not the main focal point. 10 to 11 episodes besides that, it is the focal point. It is the center of the story, or at least in some capacity. And I know some people might say, it's kind of like they took the elements of Equestria Girls and Canterlot High and brought it over to here. You know, you can think that if you want, and that might be the case, but I look at it like this. It's basically a hybrid. It's basically a hybrid of that in a way, but I also look at it as being something original. Like, yes, you could see a little bit of that Equestria Girls Canterlot High School influence being spread in here, but I see it being a hybrid of that and what Nicole DeBach brings to the table. Remember, Nicole DeBach, from what I understand, helped recently write some of the Ponyville mysteries. That is why in some of the 10 to 11 episodes that are focused on the students and focused on the school itself, 10 to 11 of those episodes are the reason, like I said, 10 to 11 of those episodes are focused on the school and the students themselves is because Nicole DeBach is taking what she did with Ponyville Mysteries, in which a majority of that, from what I understand, was focused on the younger generation, and implementing that here to this season. Now again, I know I sound like a broken record here, but this is not going to be the entire season. This is not even. Here's the thing. It's 26 episodes. Okay. If it was split in half, like half the season was school related and half the season wasn't, it would be 13 episodes each in that sense. It's not. Instead, you have 16 to 15 episodes that are non-school centered and related, and 10 to 11 that are. So that's the benefit you got to look at. The only reason, like I said, the School of Friendship is being brought in is to help connect the series or connect this new season to the movie, as well as expand on the lore of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic and the equestrian history it presents. It shows that there's more creatures out there besides ponies, Pegasus, unicorns, and whatnot. You know, it's not just that, but it's mainly to sell. It's mainly, and this is what Hasbro's always been about. It is to sell a new playset, and that new playset is the School of Friendship. Now, I understand some people are concerned. They are concerned at the fact that, like I said earlier, Season 9 could be more about these newer characters than the main 6 and 7. I'm not gonna say it won't be and it will be, but I seriously doubt that if Season 9, as some people are projecting, if that is the last season, I don't think Nicole DeBach, Megan McCarthy, or anybody else are going to want to end the series focusing majority of the final season on these newer characters that we just got introduced to the season before. I think they're going to want to use season 9 as a bit of a celebration of how far the series came. They're going to want to dedicate season 9 in some way to the fans. And I see season 9 kicking off in a major way. I really do. You know, some people ask me who I think the villains are going to be. I pretty much laid it out in an audio video, taking an example that Silver Quill pointed out in his video he did with KP last year, old and new, when it came to the villains of MLP. And the character he used as sort of a reimagining for this generation of My Little Pony that I believe could be used in season 9 from almost start to finish is Majesty. I pointed out that Majesty could be the threat that really capsulizes what the final season could be about. I mentioned that she could be the one that brings all these villains together. She could be like a rogue alicorn that's responsible for the creation of the dark magic and such. And that at the same time she recruits all these villains along with her to combat and try to gain revenge over the main 6, 7, if you will, and what they had done. And that throughout a majority of the season, the final season, you can use every other episode, it being 26 episodes long, to build to that moment. And that you can actually make an exception and use the series finale as a movie. You can make the series finale into a movie by basically taking everything that's started at the end of part 2 of your season 9 premiere and culminate it into a hour and a half feature film, maybe made for television feature film on that Saturday morning in which the series finale would be aired. But I also mentioned something else. I talked about the fact that there could be something else they can do, and what I talked about was primarily they could take a cue. They could take a cue or inspiration from what the 1990 X-Men animated series did. You see, at the end of an episode, at the end of the second part of season 3's premiere, Out of the Past, we zoom up into space after Xavier explains that what just happened is just the beginning of something bigger. We zoom up into space. We see big coming soon sign words coming. A big coming soon sign wording coming straight at the screen. We see a wall of fire just raise up from the earth, and then we see the words "The Phoenix Saga." And I thought to myself, wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that really get people's interest and intrigue for the final season up if they did the same thing at the end of the season 8 finale, at the end of the second part of the season 8 finale, where basically you have the main characters talk about what's happened, and then kind of maybe have one of them, presumably Twilight or maybe Celestia, mention that maybe the fight for friendship, the battle of friendship, has just begun. And then all of a sudden, maybe you can zoom in, and maybe as she's saying that, or one of them saying that, you can scroll across the main 6 or the rest of the main 6 or 7, and then kind of slowly stop at Rarity and kind of zoom in on her, and then you can have that transition up into the sky, and then you would see something like I say, something similar to what they did with at the end of Out of the Past in the X-Men series, where it would say, coming next season, the Nightmare Rarity arc. Which to me, I think if they did that, and people are saying how good that arc was, essentially being the Friendship is Magic equivalent of the Dark Phoenix deal, I think that could work. I think if they were finally to adapt that and start the new season, the final season off with that, they would have people enthroned wanting to tune in to that premiere on that day just to see the beginning of it, just to see that adaptation finally take place. And the reason they would finally want to do that is because the show would finally be doing something that it's been taking an example from when it comes to the comics. You see, the comics at times take a lot more risk. It doesn't matter what they're adapted from, but they seem to be a little bit more darker, a little bit more mature, and they take a lot more risk, and they have more of a freelance like environment. Like they basically have a little bit more leeway to do whatever. You know, you take a look at the Nightmare Rarity arc, You take a look at the ending there, the final panel there, where Rarity's holding Spike close to her, and in fact Spike's the last one to say something to help restore Rarity. The comics mainly are the kind that would probably dare to touch upon that and maybe even address it and make it official. I look at the animated series following suit on that, because there are times lately in the past several seasons where we've seen them take a similar path and trying to be a little bit more leeway in what they do, or give a little bit more leeway in what they present and do. And I could see them doing that in the final season. I can see them, as I mentioned before, giving out a little bit more leeway. That's why I would think that if they don't go the Majesty route throughout the season, that they could still go a route out that would get people intrigued. And that route could be announcing that in the upcoming final season, or the 9th season, the Nightmare Rarity arc would be adapted. Like I said before, they could also finally address things from Celestia and Luna's origins to whether or not Spike and Rarity would happen, which, if it's the final season and it's got no connection to the next generation, I think would indeed become reality. Whether or not Pinkie Pie and Applejack are related in some way or form, and several other questions. So, to me, season 9 is definitely, the final season is definitely one that I think should be dedicated mostly to the fans. And this is why I don't believe that what gets exemplified and focused on for 10 or 11 episodes here in season 8 is going to translate and be focused on more so in season 9. Because all you're doing here is you're introducing new characters, yes. You're connecting the movie to the show as well, yes. And one of the main priorities is to focus on the School of Friendship, thus promote the new School of Friendship playset, yes. But as I mentioned, I'll say it again, you only have 10 to 11 episodes focused on the School of Friendship, focused on the students and creatures there. Well, otherwise, you have 16 to 15 episodes focused on the main 6 and their allies, and that's it. So, overall, when I look at season 8 and the impact it could have going forward, I think it's going to be an interesting season. And again, I don't think anybody that's still concerned whether or not it's going to be more about these new characters in school. Like I said before, you don't have to worry about that, because primarily the school is there the School of Friendship is a center point, but it's not the main point. You're going to have 16 to 15 episodes that are non-school related and non-student centered and all that. So you don't have to worry about that. You're only going to get 10 to 11 of that at most. Because I think Nicole Dubach, Megan McCarthy, and Jason Terese, and all of them involved, they're playing it smart. They realize, yes, School of Friendship has to be focused on. These new characters have to have some spotlight. But we cannot forget what brought us to the dance. So, overall, that's all I'm going to say on season 8, I should say, and what impact it may have going forward, and what impact it may have going into the upcoming season. So, let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like, and I'm out.